Had a conversation with Brother Nutt a while back. You remember Brother Nutt? He was here for our first missions conference that I was pastor here 2 years ago. And I remember sitting in the back office with Brother Nutt, and we're talking about ministry. And I remember listening to him reminisce about the great days of revival under great preachers of old, like Brother Lee Robertson and Brother Jack Hiles and Oliver B. Green and Brother Bobby Robertson and all these great men of God that God used to do these great and mighty works all throughout the country and around the world. And I just saw his mind go back to those days. And there was a part of me that just had to ask the question, where are those days? Where are those great men of God, great women of God who the Lord used to do these wonderful works? And he looked at me and he actually pulled me really close. It was almost nose to nose. I'm like, this is actually a little bit uncomfortable, you know. Pulled me super close and he said something I'll never forget. He said, I don't think I ever will. He said, son, we've forgotten what it means to get in the secret place. We've forgotten what it means to get in the secret place. Look down here at Psalm 91. It says, He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him will I trust. Several weeks ago in my house, my wife and I, it was late at night, it was something like 2 o'clock in the morning. And for whatever reason, I woke up in the middle of the night, and everything was quiet in the house, as it normally is. And I was making my way to the restroom, and as I reached for the door handle and turned that door and opened up the door, I looked down, and standing right in front of me was my son Ezra, just standing there going like this. About scared me half to death. Heart just about leaped out of my chest. Have you ever done that? Have you ever opened the door in the middle of the night and somebody's just standing there? That'll wake you up pretty quick if you ever do. And I said, Ezra, what are you doing, buddy? Why are you up in the middle of the night? He didn't say anything. He just kind of stood there looking at me. And so I picked him up and I walked him back to his room. And I laid him down in his bed and tried to get him settled with his Paw Patrol blanket and got him all wrapped up and everything, ready for bed. And then he started crying. And not loudly, not screaming, just kind of quietly crying. And so I sat there by his bed and I kept asking him the question, what's wrong, buddy? What's going on? What do you need? Can I get you some water? Do you need a toy? Is there something that you want by you? Usually it's a dinosaur or something that helps comfort him in the night. And that's usually what it is, but this time I couldn't get anything out of him. He just kept crying, and he was sad, and he had that big, sad look on his face, and there was no answer. He was just crying. And so after a few minutes, I figured maybe he'd just eventually settle down, and so I stood up, and I walked around back to the door, and I heard him through tears. He said this, he said, but Daddy, I just wanted to be with you. I just wanted to be with you. And that stopped me. And he didn't want a toy. He didn't want something from me. He just wanted his daddy. And can I just tell you something tonight, that I believe that is exactly what God is looking for. Not just people who come to church, not just people who, as we've said many times, just go through the motions, or people who show up for a week of revival that's on the calendar. God is looking for a people who will say, Lord, I just want to be with you. We talk about revival, and that's a good thing to talk about. We schedule it, we promote it, and we will do that. We put it on a schedule and a calendar and all of that. But folks, revival doesn't start publicly with social media ads and trying to amp up the thing and promote the thing. Revival, if we're going to have revival, I believe is born here in this secret place. If we're ever going to have power in a service, if we're ever going to have power out there in the field, so to speak, there must be a pursuit of God in private moments alone with Him. Before God is going to ever move in our church, He's got to meet with us as individuals. And so Psalm 91 here starts with this one person. It says, he that dwelleth. Look down there at the text. It says, he that dwelleth. Not he that visits, not he that occasionally stops by, but he that dwells or dwelleth. And here's where we are, if we're honest. Many times, a lot of Christians, we want the shadow of the Almighty, but we don't want the secret place. We want God's protection, and we want God's power. We want God's presence even at times, but we don't want to be the ones to stay close to Him. And so tonight, before we really begin to focus on this scheduled week of revival, we need to ask ourselves this question. Am I spending time with God in the secret place? Do I have a secret place with God? Or do I just have the public appearance of religion? He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Why don't you read that text with me together, church? Why don't we read it together? He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. One more time, may we? He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Notice here this person. Before we ever get to the promise of this verse, we have to deal with the person that it's talking about. The Bible doesn't say that this person visits. It doesn't say that he just occasionally shows up here. It says that he dwelleth. That word dwelleth carries the idea of remaining, of abiding, of staying put. Dwelling carries with it the idea of making yourself at home, of get comfortable, stay a while, is what it's communicating. It is a settled, continual, intentional life in the presence of God. This is not the casual, convenient Christianity that fits God into their little bubble. This is a man, this is a woman who has made up the decision in their mind that I am going to stay with God in every season of my life. And when you look here at Psalm 91, many believe that it actually flows straight from Psalm 90, which is entitled A Prayer of Moses, the Man of God. And if that connection is right, I believe that there's good reasons to see it that way. You're looking at a man like Moses who knew that something about being with God in a way that many others never knew. Think about it. In Moses' life, when Moses went up into the mount, what did the people do? They had to stay back, didn't they? They had to look on and see the thunder and the lightning, and they saw the glory. But Moses was fortunate enough to actually be able to go in and see God and be there in His immediate presence. There was a place with God for Moses. There was a nearness. There was a fellowship. There was a reality there for Moses that many others never in Scripture ever got to know. And what the reality is today is that God has made that knowledge available to every one of us as believers in our Christian church age today. And that's exactly what this verse is describing here. That this one who dwells in the presence of God. And when the Bible here talks about the secret place, what is that talking about? The secret place. I think it has more to do with the fact that, yes, we need to have a place. The Bible talks about how we need to have a closet where we're not in public and praying, and there needs to be a place of privacy there. But the secret place, why is it a secret place? Well, because it's a place where many never experience. It's not just a location that nobody else knows about. Yes, Jesus talked about going into your closet to pray, and there's a place for that. But the secret place is deeper than just a physical spot. The secret place is a place that I believe few ever really find, because few have ever had the hunger and the thirst and the discipline to pursue it. It's the place where God meets with us on a personal level, where He becomes real to us, where it's not just something that you heard about from the preacher, but it's something that you've experienced for yourself. The Bible describes this kind of hunger. It talks about it in Scripture. It says, as the hart panteth after the water brook, so panteth my soul after thee. That's the type of desire that reaches into desperation. That as bad as you want to breathe, that as bad as you need to drink water, as bad as you need to eat to live and breathe and move and have energy, as bad as you need those things, you come to the realization that as bad as I need those, I need God just as much, if not more. Psalm 63, O God, Thou art my God. Early will I seek Thee. My soul thirsteth for Thee. My flesh longeth for Thee. Jeremiah said it this way, Ye shall seek me and find me, when ye shall search for me with all your heart. All your heart. And that doesn't mean search for me with your leftover time or your leftover energy. Not your spare moments, not when it's just convenient, but with all your heart. And listen, church, it's easy for us to maybe get stirred up in a church service and with the powerful music and with all that's going on in a church service. But when's the last time God touched our heart and our heart was moved by spending time in the prayer closet alone with God? When's the last time it didn't take some emotional manipulation for you to feel and to sense the presence of God, and it happened in alone time with God and seeking Him and searching after Him? When's the last time? And we just sang about the sweet hour of prayer. Meeting with God. There's a difference between knowing about God and knowing God. There's a difference between feeling something in a church service and meeting with someone in a secret place. And the truth is that I think a lot of us Christians are trying to live on a borrowed kind of manufactured fire. It's sad, but it's the truth. We live from service to service. We live from song to song, from sermon to sermon. But we've never really learned what it is to dwell in the presence of God. We've never really pressed in. We've never really stayed long enough. We've never sought hard enough. We never truly meet with God for themselves. I was reading about Acts chapter 2 and the day of Pentecost when the Holy Ghost of God came down and empowered the apostles and the disciples there to go and preach. And God did a great work and saw 3,000 souls saved and lives changed and a church started and all this stuff. And God blessed in a great and mighty way. But you know what they were doing before the Holy Spirit came? They were there in the upper room. And how many days do you think that they were up there? 10. 10 days they prayed and fasted. When's the last time we had a prayer meeting like that? Acts chapter 2. Maybe. They fasted and they prayed and they prayed. And they sought God. And they sought the Lord. They wanted God. They needed God. And tonight, before we ever have revival, God is not asking us just to show up to the meeting, even though I'm sure God would have us to be at the meeting. He's asking you the question. He's asking me the question. Do we know what it means to dwell in the presence of God? Notice here the place. Look down here, the text. It says, He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High. It's not just any place. It's the secret place of the Most High. That's the title there given to God. The Most High. It speaks of His authority, His supremacy, His sovereignty even. This is the God who is above all things. He's above everything. This is the God who is above your problems. This is the God that's above my problems. This is a God who's above all of our circumstances and our fears and all the troubles of this world. And yet He has a place that you and I can meet with Him. Personally. And again, we're not just talking about a closet or a room or a location that nobody else knows about. Yes, we ought to have a place where we get alone with God, but the secret place is deeper than just a spot on a map or a geographic location. It is a place of access. It is a place of intimacy with the Lord. It is a place of communion with God. Let me say it like this. Not everybody lives there. Not everybody knows where this place is. You remember in the Old Testament, you remember the tabernacle, right? There was the outer court, and then there was the holy place, and then the Holy of Holies, which was the innermost place. That's where the presence of God was, and not everybody went in there. In fact, only the high priest could go in, and only he could go in at certain times, right? He couldn't just walk in willy-nilly. But here's the wonderful thing. When Jesus Christ died on that cross, that veil was torn from top to bottom, and now Hebrews tells us that we can come boldly into that presence of God. So understand this tonight. The secret place is open, but just because it's open doesn't mean that it's occupied by many. And the fact of the matter is, I think about this all the time, is that Jesus went more willingly to the cross than we go willingly to the throne of grace. Think of that. We throw fit and we look for anything to do to fill our time, then get alone with God and seek Him in the secret place of prayer. It's available to every one of us in this room. It's not for a select priesthood. It's not for any kind of super saint. It is for me and it's for you. James 4:8 tells us, draw nigh unto God, and He will draw nigh to you. That's a promise from the Bible, but it comes with a condition. You draw near and He'll draw near. He responds. You draw nigh to God, He'll draw closer to you. The idea there is that you take one step, He'll take one step. And you take another step, and He'll take another step. And the closer you come to God, the closer He'll draw nigh to you. So it's conditional, but it's a promise that if we take steps towards Him and we pursue Him, that He'll come closer to us. Here's what it looks like in real life. It's getting alone with God when nobody else is watching and opening your Bible, not rushing through it, but staying until God speaks to you. Staying until God speaks. It's praying, not just saying words, but it's digging in until your heart connects with Him. And when you get in that place, I'm telling you, something happens. We begin to behold Him and know Him and sense His presence in a way that is real and personal. I think of Moses time and time again. Exodus 33:11, it says, and the Lord spake unto Moses face to face as a man speaketh to his friend. That's interesting. That's a relationship. And that's what the secret place is. It's where God stops being just a doctrine in a textbook or a sermon that we heard on Sunday. It becomes real to you. It becomes yours. That's why the psalmist, he goes on to say, I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge. He says, He is my fortress. He is my God. I tell you, that does something for my heart. He's not saying there is a God or a fortress. He is my God, my refuge, my fortress. It's personal. It's His. There's ownership there. That's the secret place. You'll never have a deep walk with God in public until you have a real meeting with God in private. We're not going to accidentally kind of stumble into intimacy with God. It's something that we have to pursue, something that we have to prioritize, it's something that we even have to protect many times. The secret place is where our revival is going to actually begin. Then notice here, thirdly, the position. It says here, shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. So we have the promise and the position that comes as a result. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Notice that word shall. There's not a maybe, it's not just a possibility. It's a promise that if you and I dwell, then we will abide under His shadow. That word abide means that we'll remain, that we'll continue, that we'll stay fixed under. And then he says, where are we going to abide? If we dwell with God in prayer and in His presence, we'll abide under the shadow, His shadow of the Almighty. The word shadow there speaks of nearness and protection and refreshment. I'll tell you, the worst thing that a Christian can do is serve God and serve in the ministry and go and do and do and do and go and serve and serve and show up and wake up early and get on the bus route and make food and go to work and all these different things and serve God and serve God and serve God, but never actually get in the secret place. It's one of the worst things you can do, because you'll end up burnt out, you'll end up frustrated. What you and I need more than anything else is to get alone with the Lord and learn what it means to dwell in the secret place and to abide in the shadow of the Almighty. Under the shadow, the shadow here, it's interesting. The shadow, what does it mean? I believe it's talking about a place of protection. But not just a place of protection, a place of refreshment. Think of a hot day. They didn't have air conditioning back in the day. They had, and some of you are old enough to remember that, right? They didn't have air conditioning in vehicles even. Those of you that are well stricken in years, right? But the shadow was a place of refreshment. It was a place to gain cool air, a fresh breath. Protection, a place of fellowship, a place of covering, a place of security. It's the picture of someone living so close to God that His presence is constant. And again here, the title here, the Almighty. It's not just any presence, it's the presence of the God who has all power. He speaks and it's done. He commands and it stands fast. He rules over all of heaven and earth. And you and I have the opportunity to live in the constant abiding presence of His shadow, under His shadow. And then it shifts here to the personal. It becomes so personal. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him will I trust. You know what will get pretty tiring? Is being the kind of person that talks about this kind of thing and talks about it and talks about it. We hear stories about it. But I want to be a witness to God's power. I want to be a witness of God's presence. I want to have talking about me, I want to have been the one to have been alone with the Lord and to have known Him on a deep, intimate, personal level. And you ought to want the same thing. It's His. He said, I will say. In other words, when a man has been in the secret place, when he's dwelt with God, when he's lived under His shadow, he has something to say. He says, I will say. Most people don't have anything good to say, but I tell you, when you've been alone with God, you have something to say. You have something to talk about. You have somewhere that you can point others to go. And it's interesting. Here he talks about it. He is my fortress, my God. Do you hear the difference here? Not a refuge, not the refuge. He says my refuge. A refuge is a place where you and I can run when everything else is falling apart. A fortress is a place that is very hard to break into, if not impossible to break into. And he says here, basically, when I get into trouble, when life presses in, when fear starts to well up in me, I don't run to this world. I don't run to vice. I don't run even to another relation. I run to Him. And that's so counterintuitive for many of us, because when we get stressed out or we have something that happens in our life, we immediately run to something to fill the void, to distract us, to keep us to help with the anxiety. Maybe it's medication, or maybe it's alcohol. Some people run to alcohol or television or whatever else it is that somebody might fill their attention with other than God to help deal with the anxiety or deal with the pressure of the situation. We need to be the kind of people that immediately find our peace, our strength in God. He would be the place where we abide, that He would be our refuge, our place of safety, our place of refreshment and rejuvenation. We don't run to the world, we run to Him. And then he says here, he says, in Him will I trust. Not in His circumstances, not in His feelings, not in the outcome of the situation. In Him will I trust. And here's what I want us to understand tonight, is that we cannot honestly say verse number 2 if we've not lived in verse 1. We cannot stand up and say, He is my refuge, He's my fortress, He's my strong tower, He's going to be the one in whom I trust. We can't say that if we're not dwelling in the secret place, if we're not abiding under His shadow. And we often do this. We'll sing songs and sing hymns, but are they true in our life? But this psalm that Moses wrote, he had this kind of confidence, this faith, this personal declaration that only comes from experience with God. And that's what's missing in a lot of Christianity today. We know the language, but we don't have the life. We can say the words, but for whatever reason, there's simply no depth behind them. But when a man or when a woman has met with God and is spending time with God and knows what it means to dwell with God, when they know what it means to be in the secret place with God, when they've walked under the shadow of the Almighty, we don't have to be coached on with what to say. It just simply seems to come out from them. And I wonder tonight, can you say that? Can you be the one to say, not just because it sounds good, not just because you've heard it before, but because you know Him like that? He's my refuge. When everything falls apart, I run to Him. He's my fortress. When the enemy comes knocking on my door, He's my defense. My God, He's personal to me, not just some theological dissertation from a seminary. No, He's my God. I worship Him. And in Him I will trust. My faith is in Him, not in somebody or something else. When we get to that, I believe revival will come. People will stop repeating simple phrases that they've always heard. We'll start actually being witnesses to what we've experienced. I think many of us, even last year, experienced God. And we need Him to do it again. And I wonder, though, it won't happen until we search for Him and draw nigh unto Him. That only can happen in the secret place. And he says here, I will say of the Lord, He's my refuge. It starts in the secret place. And so my question to you, church, is not, are we going to show up every night of the week? I hope we do. And you know, of course, as your pastor, I want you to be here every night of the week. I want you to take the messages. I want you to take notes. And I want you to, respond to the messages and that sort of thing. But my question for you is this: will you seek God in the coming weeks leading up to this meeting? I believe that if we'll get alone with God, if we'll deal with our hearts, if we'll start dwelling in the secret place with Him again, then when we come together, it's not just going to be a regular meeting. God's going to really meet with us. And so, folks, let's not wait for a revival to start. Let's start seeking Him right now. I wonder, do you hunger and thirst for Him? Do you hunger and thirst for God? Is your desire to be in His presence? Do you desire to know Him deeper and more fully than you did yesterday? That knowledge is available to you if you'd simply come to Him. If you'd simply come to Him and give yourself to time in the secret place. I'm not saying that every moment in prayer is going to be, like the song goes, I come to the garden alone while the dew. I'm not saying that every moment in prayer is going to be, some garden experience, but I can tell you that if you'll stay there long enough, God will reveal Himself to you in a powerful and fresh way. And so I invite you to recommit yourself to prayer, seeking God, seek His face. And I guarantee you that if we'll do that, He'll reveal Himself.